much. I want to thank Gloria. Applause for Gloria. She's amazing organizing this conference for the 7th consecutive time, and I've been invited to always be speaking here, so it's a great pleasure to be with all of you this afternoon. So thank you very much for staying. My rockstar panel, we start with Mr. Terence Lee, Papa Terence Lee. He's the Chief Operating Officer from Hotel Indonesia Group. We have Eric Baldwin, coming from co-founder of the Lunas Resort. And we have, last but not least, my good friend as well, Gonzalo, from Melia International. Thank you very much, the panelists. Take a seat. I take also 1 minute to introduce myself. I work in a family business, my family-in-law business. We own 2 large resorts in Bali, the Saigon resort in Tanjung Benoa, 261 rooms, 5 stars, which is owned and operated by ourselves. And then we have another resort in Legian, 116 rooms in beachfront Legian, owned by us and operated by Cross Hotels. Here you have the representatives. Harry was here in the previous panel. So if anybody wants to have a great operator, they are a great choice. I am a happy owner, I have to say. So I'd like to give the floor to this wonderful panelist, and please take your time to introduce yourselves, explain about your business, about your brands. So please, I'll start from Eric.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Eric. I've been here in Indonesia for the last 21 years. Myself and some friends started to Lunas Resorts about 20 years ago. We've got 2 resorts located in the Kepulauan Riau area, the Riau Islands area. And one would be an all-inclusive resort, and the other one is partially all-inclusive. How's that for an oxymoron, I suppose? But we are looking to build a 3rd resort out as well in Belitung, hopefully sometime in the next year or 2. Our desire is to build impactful boutique resorts in remote areas. We love being more in remote settings, and we enjoy that kind of environment. So it's a little bit about us.
Thank you, Eric. Please, I think you introduced yourself in the previous panel, and most of the people stayed here. So perhaps you can give us an overview what is very specific to the topic of this afternoon about all-inclusive resorts, and how does TUI play that in that field?
Thank you. For TUI Blue, almost 70% of our resorts are all-inclusive. We really rely a lot on our TUI tour operators, which is usually European-based. We are one of the largest tour operator in Germany. We are public listed. We have over 130 fleet, 16 cruises, and almost over 1,600 travel agencies. And also, we own 430 hotels, of which around 70%, as I said, is all-inclusive. So our customers, when coming over to Indonesia, they travel a lot. They travel very far, and then they stay in Bali, for example, like 2 or 3 weeks. And what do they want? Usually, they want an all-inclusive resort. They want to stay in the resort, enjoy. So inside the resort itself, we arrange a lot of activities. We also have a lot of F&B concepts. Not only one, we have 6 F&B concepts. So we try to get the customers play inside the resort, basically. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. Papa Terence, please introduce yourself.
Afternoon, I'm Terence. I've been now here in Indonesia or Asia for about 25 years. I'm working at HIG, which is a state-owned enterprise company. Currently, we're managing 3 brands from 3-star to 5-star. We're considering to add a new brand as well, which is more focusing to heritage. We are targeting or planning basically to be the 3rd biggest operator by 2026. So keep my fingers crossed. Thank you.
Mr. Gonzalo.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much for staying. I'm Gonzalo. I've been with Melia for around 22 years, 20 of them here in Asia, so a long time already. Melia is one of the main actors in the all-inclusive market. We have around 20,000 rooms worldwide, around 40 hotels, more or less, which work in a pure all-inclusive model, means 100% all-inclusive sales. We work with TUI quite a lot, of course, and we've been trying to introduce the model in Asia for the last 10 years, more or less. Finally, he's confirmed that one of our properties here in Indonesia is going to become all-inclusive, change brand to 100% all-inclusive. I will tell you about it later during the panel.
Okay, we will disclose that, the hot news, a little bit later. I want to ask to the audience, who has actually stayed in an all-inclusive resort? Can you please raise your hand? Who has experience staying in an all-inclusive? I cannot see many. Maybe 10%, 15% of the audience has actually stayed in an all-inclusive resort. Actually, this is a formula very popular in the Caribbean, in the Mediterranean, but for some reason in Asia Pacific, there are not many all-inclusive resorts. And I would say actually that some people don't even know what is an all-inclusive resort, what actually is all about. Can perhaps have a very quick, just a few lines. Eric, what is your definition of all-inclusive? When I ask you, what is an all-inclusive resort? What is it, in your view?
Well, I think it's an experience, right? I mean, we're trying to offer an experience to our guests. I mentioned earlier, we're specifically targeting for us remote locations. So there's really not another option. We have to do that. If we're not providing the experience for the guests, then all they're going to do is come and sleep, which means they're actually not going to come. So by default, we've got to provide kind of the full range, the food, the transport, the activities. That's got to be all there. If it's not, we're not going to get the people to come. But that experience is really central and core to what we're trying to provide to our guests on a day in and day out basis.
How would you define all-inclusive, or from the TUI perspective? How do you approach the market with that all-inclusive tag?
Yeah, I agree with Eric. Actually, is basically we try to offer experience, and also convenience to our guests, basically. So people from Europe, they're coming to Asia. They're probably concerned about the security, for example, the safety, and we make sure that they enjoy everything. They have what they need inside the resort, basically. Yeah.
Terence, I don't know if Hotel Indonesia Group has any all-inclusive resort, and if it doesn't, are you planning to have one? What are your feelings about the all-inclusive product for your group specifically?
Actually, we have one now in Nusa Dua, the Mirusaka. It's doing fantastic. It's doing. I can easily say that from all the places, all the hotels and the resorts we have, maybe it's all-inclusive is more something that we can do for Bali, and it's working like a charm. They achieved the budget, year budget basically already in October, so it was quite fast. GOP, GOR achieved, so top and bottom line achieved. So fantastic.
I have to say that our hotel, the Sakala, looks closely what you guys are doing in terms of rates, etc. So if you guys are doing well, it's a good benchmark to compare with. But I'm very interested, I'm going to ask you later, how you think you make that hotel so successful and achieve the budget. And perhaps Gonzalo also can stress on the idea how you guys make that product profitable. I mean, how you've been in Indonesia with, well, the Melia in Nusa Dua has the all-inclusive, and so successful that is going to be strengthening that offering, right? So how?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think all-inclusive is something that has been in the market for very long. In Europe, all-inclusive always had an image of like a low-quality product or 4-star, 3-star, 4-star type of product. The idea of all the brands lately has been to elevate this concept to a 5-star experience. In Asia, there are several all-inclusive successful models, not at a five-star level, but Benoa is one of them. Benoa, there has been all-inclusive products.
We have an ex-GM here from, yes, Mr.
Yes.
Ivan. He started his career in Indonesia as a, it was an all-inclusive when you were running the hotel? You also want to join the panel and okay. It was successful back in the days? So it was, okay, so, you know, environment, economics. Wow, wow, that's impressive.
So we had Benoa. There are other parts of Asia like Muine, which is a very popular kitesurfing market in Vietnam that also has always had this kind of all-inclusive market at the 4-star level. What we did, which is something that worked very well for us in the Caribbean, Cancun, Playa del Carmen, also in the Dominican Republic and in Cuba, was to try to sell the idea that we can elevate this segment, and instead of focusing on the 4-star market, to focus on 5-star plus. I wouldn't call it luxury, really, but 4-star plus. One of the main issues of this model is that when you design a hotel, I'm talking about our all-inclusive, which is a bit different from like a Maldives type all-inclusive, right? It affects the design of the hotel quite a lot. You have more outlets, means more employees, more fixed costs, right? Sometimes owners, they are not on board with this. So how do you show to the owner that you are committed to this model, or that the model works, right? So what we did in Nusa Dua was to start selling all-inclusive. So we started selling unsuccessfully around 13, 14 years ago, probably because the pricing was not in the right place at the time. But we brought one of our GMs from Dominican Republic, and then he implemented a slightly different model, and he started being successful. So at the moment, all the sales of the hotel, like 40% of the sales are all-inclusive, meaning full board plus many other experiences already included. We started with 10%, now we are doing 40%. Owning company has decided, okay, I want this, but I want it 100%. So they are now committed to the model after we show them what we can do.
Great. Eric, as Gonzalo mentioned, his model is slightly different. Considering your model in a more, remote location, do you think that's all-inclusive is the right formula for many projects that they are outside the core locations in Bali? I mean, for all these high upscale developments that we are seeing in Sumba, in Labuan Bajo, in Raja Ampat, do you think it's the right way to go? That would be your recommendation for a developer of an upscale sustainable project in one of these island locations?
That's a great question. You know, once again, it probably still depends on where you are. So the locations where we are, there's literally, there's no other restaurant to go to. There's no other activities other than the ones we take you to. So, you know, if you're in a Labuan Bajo, you probably still do have other options you could get to if you really wanted to. You've got things you could take advantage of. I think what's intriguing is the idea of offering the all-inclusive package to someone and letting your customers decide, right? Letting your guests decide, do they want that, do they not want that? It sounds like you utilize that to help convince the owner that this is a good way to go. And I think there could be some of these areas where you could have some options for these all-inclusive experiences, but you could also be selling out just the rooms or other experiences, and you can see what does your market want? What are they demanding? What are they wanting? We've talked about that. Do we go away from the all-inclusive? But the reality for us is that they get on site, and they still have to pay us for the food anyways. They have to pay us for the activity if they didn't pay for it up front. So we found it's best just to bundle it.
Now that you mentioned that, later I'm going to ask you how you wrap that in your commercial speech, how the guest perceives that you're not taking advantage, that they don't kind of go anywhere else, but you are also adding value. Remember, the title of the panel is about not breaking the bank account. So you somehow also need to offer good value, right? I will ask you later about that. But I'm also interested to know about TUI approach to the Indonesian market in terms of the all-inclusive? Are you actually talking with some developers to roll out this product? Which locations, in your opinion, there is potential for this very specific type of resort?
Yeah, I think in Indonesia, we are currently talking with a couple of developers for all-inclusive resort. The locations of this resort actually still have a very good infrastructure, but probably not many proper restaurants or F&B outlets options. So I think most importantly, what make us interested to develop all-inclusive resort in these locations are actually the exotic locations, beachfront locations, or they have a diving spots, for example, or it's on top of a mountain, which a very nice view on a valley, river. This is what we want to aim to target. And all-inclusive can be a solution because it creates convenience, it creates. At the same time, we can create a lot of activities, events for our guests. For TUI customers, as I mentioned, they want it. Usually we arrange a package for TUI customers in Europe. So when they come to Bali, for example, for 3 weeks, maybe they will stay in. They'll have to stay in Malaysia for 2 weeks, for example. They do all-inclusive over there, but before that, they usually spend like maybe 3 nights in Ubud, 3 nights in Candidasa, something like that. So we arrange the package, but there's also one time that they will do a long, slightly extended stay, which is usually their last destination. This is for TUI, basically.
Good. Just to make the session a little bit more interactive, I'm going to ask some of my friends in here in the audience. For example, Harry, is all-inclusive something that you are looking at across the region? Do you see any potential in some specific locations for this kind of product? Is that something that you're looking at or not?
It's not something we're considering right now, but we look at it going forward based on our growth trajectory. Once we start looking at secondary, tertiary, more remote type destinations, I would 100% say it's a viable proposition that we would consider very seriously, but not where we stand at today.
Sure, and I think in a remote location maybe it's the only way to go, but we have the example of Hotel Indonesia Group with Merusaka, which is a large resort in Nusa Dua that not necessarily has to go all-inclusive, but he was explaining to us before that it's the most profitable hotel in the portfolio, and they met the budget in October. That's amazing. How do you think all-inclusive has contributed to make that hotel particularly profitable? What was the key of success? How did the all-inclusive concept help that goal?
I think it's important to understand as well that HIG is basically a state-owned hotel operator, basically, and we are aiming basically to be fully basically Indonesians. So everything to be indigenous as much as possible. For Merusaka, the market that we are having over there is mainly a Australian market segment. They are willing to buy basically the all-inclusive. If you go to the other properties, let's say you have the Americans, you have the Asians, and you have the Indonesians. I don't see quickly an Indonesian family basically staying for 1 week in any hotel, wanting to eat 7 days in the same hotel. After the second day, maybe it's already go out. I think most of us who travel to Bali, you know the symptoms. You come with a bucket list of all the restaurants that you need to follow. 10 o'clock in the morning, you have to go to Gusto, and at 7 o'clock in the evening, you have to go to Massimo. And in between, basically, every single hour, you need to go to another restaurant. Then most likely, you order Gojek, GoFood, as well. So it's quite a difficult market. But then basically, if you look at all-inclusive, besides F&B, look at spa. The cost of a spa, basically, is so cheap. It's only about what? You sell a spa for 500,000, 800,000. The cost is only about 20,000. Your profit margin is gigantic. But then basically, remember as well, you got one therapist handling basically one guest. If you got a 200-room operation, how many guests do you need to massage? How many therapists do you need? How many spa rooms do you need? So instead of basically giving an all-inclusive basically with spa as well, consider basically adding it up, selling it up basically. Instead of 500,000, you sell it for 300,000, 200,000. Give a big discount, but you still make a huge profit. And I think that is something that other markets will greatly appreciate.
That's a great point. As a matter of fact, it's called all-inclusive, but I would say it's almost all-inclusive. I think it's a great opportunity to upsell, isn't it, Gonzalo? I'm sure in your research you do a lot of upselling, right?
The previous panel about insurance, all risk is never all risk, like almost all risk. So yeah, I think one of the best opportunities for all-inclusive is that it's much easier to do upselling in all-inclusive properties compared with traditional property. The reservation, the booking window for all-inclusive is much longer than a normal hotel. It's very common that families are booking their holidays or couples like 3 months in advance, and normally they pay for that already. So when they arrive to the property, they have much more available spending power to spend on spa, excursions.
At least psychologically, they think, okay, everything is paid already, so I can extra.
Yeah, exactly. So we've been talking about Bali. I think Bali is one of the good places for this kind of model because the average stay in the island is quite long compared with other destinations. So we've been working with other properties in Vietnam. The stay is much shorter compared with Bali. In Bali, we are doing currently around 4.6 nights per stay.
Average length of stay.
Average at the moment. So that's actually fair enough for an all-inclusive.
I have actually lots of questions, but because I see some of the audience already sent their questions, let's give them floor. And Eric, there are two actually for you, and you can put them together in the same answer perhaps. And as I anticipated to you, I'd like to understand how you market your resort and how that all-inclusive or almost all-inclusive, whatever it is, how you put it together and make a compelling story for your clients to buy.
Yeah, it's probably important for me to note too that 99% of our guests come from outside Indonesia. So we would love to have more Indonesians come. We're open to anyone coming, but this all-inclusive model is a bit hard for our Indonesian market. They just look at that initial price, and it's just really hard for them to get over that, which I understand. If you know people who want to come, let me know. We'd love to have them. So we're marketing large to foreigners, to people coming in, mostly from Singapore, and we charge a full board, a transport, and a room fee, but they can see them separately. Our guests can see those separately when they go to book, but they're mandatory. They're not optional. At our one resort, all of the activities are included with that. So that's kind of how we put that together. Full board is not, all-inclusive is not all-inclusive. We do have a spa, we do have a bar on top of what's included in the base price. Somebody had asked, how much do we see come in from that? I think we budget or tend to calculate 15% per room per night on top of their all-inclusive package is what they will spend in addition on spa, bar, souvenirs, those kind of things. So we do see some additional revenue coming in. Some people, the Americans that come, love to spend on the spa. They might go a lot higher than that. So, but that's probably our average that we see. Does that help a little bit?
It does. Thank you, Eric. What about Indonesians? I've been in this country 11 years, so yes, it's anywhere we go with the family or with the friends, we want to try new places to eat, and I find it a bit challenging to make, as you mentioned, Terence, how you make the Indonesians stay in an all-inclusive resort, and that's a little bit the question. Is there any magic formula? It's a lost battle. Should we give up with the Indonesian market to try to offer this product is only for, I don't know, British or any hope?
Well, I think the traditional markets for all-inclusive, obviously, they are European, and in America, Mexican, Canadian, and US. We've seen a raise in the Bali market in particular about for one of the nationalities that was not a traditional all-inclusive source, which is Australia, for example. We have a lot of Australian guests. Yeah, they like to go out, they like to experience, but they acknowledge that at the moment in Bali there is a problem called traffic. Before, in the good old times, 20 years ago, I was staying in Melia Benoa, Melia Bali. You can go to Jimbaran in 10 or 15 minutes. You have your meal. You can even go to Seminyak, have a drink, and then you can go back to Nusa Dua, right? At the moment, that is impossible. People are starting to realize that. And markets, slowly, they shift. In Vietnam, for example, in a place called Phu Quoc, an island, we have a mixed model at the moment where we are selling, during the European season, we are selling all-inclusive. During the Vietnamese season, we are selling bed and breakfast, which is a solution for the time being. But I think Bali has such a big volume of guests from every nationality that I think that's not necessary in the island. Is it a lost battle? Probably for now, yes, if you want to make a swift, like very quick change. But I think the perception of value will be growing within the Indonesian market.
Now I want to ask TUI approach to development in terms of green build, the specifications. You guys have a big chunk of your portfolio in the all-inclusive, so I'm sure you have very specific brand standards when you talk to an owner and he tells you, I want to do an all-inclusive. How different has to be from a regular resort? I mean, what are the key elements that make it actually different in terms of design, development, construction cost?
Yeah.
Can you please elaborate on that? Surely
Yes.
you have a lot of experience on that.
I think for TUI Blue, we do have specifications, and most of it will require a lot of common spaces, because we want to arrange activities. But development, we always see the limitations afterwards. But what we want, we give the owner upfront on our specifications, standard specifications, because our hotels actually, in terms of creating activities, also a bit different in different areas. It's also a bit different. In some area where a hotel probably can be like 80-90% TUI customers without taking any other customers. Yes, we can make like a lot of animations, they say. Yeah. So it's like going to the cruise, then you see the theater, everything, which require a lot of manpower, but it's worth it. We know it's worth it because 80-90% of the customer probably come from TUI. So we know exactly that it will still make money, basically. But at the same time, for Indonesia market, I always see that there's also other channel, not only from TUI. In Bali, there's a very strong domestic market, which usually, as we discussed just now, don't really take all-inclusive. They still rather go to the gate, take their Gojeks to start Caravelle or something in Bali. But at the same time, I think it's good to combine the concept. So that's why even our specification that we give to our owners, it can still be flexible according to the market segments that we target. For Indonesia, for example, half of it can be like certain percentage of all-inclusive, and certain percentage we still want them to promote using OTA to build a high rates, basically.
Actually, that helps me to link to the next question to Terence. I think Merusaka, they live together different meal plans. You have bed and breakfast, you have half board, you have full board, and you have all-inclusive probably, right? You have all the spectrum of meal plans. Is that actually efficient, or it would be more efficient like you guys in the Caribbean, that is compulsory all-inclusive, and it's a machine. The charter flight comes, and it's like a machine. Everybody has to do the same meal plan. In the case of Merusaka, is that working well to have different meal plans, different guests with different... Is that a bit confusing for the operation guys? Is that okay?
I think we need to listen to the guests. It's all inclusive. I think the main factor is that we really need to listen to the feedback of the guests. We need to listen to them. We continuously need to adjust. Well, I think maybe this sounds ridiculous, and maybe it's not correct, but according to me, all inclusive, you should add go food and grab food as well. You want the people to come back to your hotel. So instead of basically asking the Go Food driver to put the food at the security, why not you take it, you put it on a plate, and you serve it to the room. This way, basically, for the next time when the guest comes back, they will be happy. They feel like it's a small token, basically, but at least this guest will feel much more comfortable to go to this hotel because what he wants, he gets. And who of us likes to eat in a hotel if you are there 3 days, 4 days in a row? Most likely on the second day or on the first night, we go out, we find something. We know we're going to a city, and in the city, basically, there is a restaurant, a snack. We go there, we try it, we want to explore it. We want to experience it. So give the guest an experience, basically, for him to come back to. And that should be all-inclusive, the experience as well. Like Eric mentioned as well, it is about, basically, how to get the guests to come back after they check out. And if you offer them, basically, something small, like, say, the Go Food, the Grab, served to the room on a plate with cutlery and everything else, small thing, but it makes a difference.
It's an interesting idea, indeed. And in the Sakala, we have kitchenette in all the rooms. And we assume that if you put a kitchenette, the people is going to buy food from outside from the supermarket and is going to cook it in the hotel, which in theory is not adding to your F&B revenue, but you offer something different that really adds value to the customer. So it's a great point, Terence. Gonzalo, perhaps we want to address the question about the sustainability. You did a panel, if I'm not mistaken, a few months ago, and you talked a lot about the sustainability initiatives of Melia. Perhaps you can make some commentary on how you guys support the sustainability and if there's any link with all-inclusive, which I don't know.
Yeah, Melia has been, not this year, but for a couple of years, we've been the most sustainable hotel company worldwide, especially because we do a lot of sustainable work in the Caribbean. Lately, last summer season in Spain, we just opened our first net zero hotel. It was a big investment by our company. We own the property. We install solar panels, biomass. We use somehow seawater for the AC. I have no idea how it works, but apparently it's very innovative.
Reverse
for
osmosis.
Reverse osmosis. And in all-inclusive is something that you implement even on a higher level. The all-inclusive model that we work with, it gives you a lot of visibility on revenues because you are having a longer booking window, which means that you have like 1 or 1.5 months more than a traditional hotel. But also, you already know your F&B revenues and all the revenues much more in advance, right?
Good. Eric, perhaps 1 minute to also tell us something about sustainability. I'm sure it's part of your offering and your approach to the market, right?
Sure. We've got a lot of work, I think, yet to do on the sustainability side. It's something we want to grow in, but alternative power sources are something we've already begun to work with. A lot of work planting mangroves, plastic. We have dozens of villages around us, a lot of plastic reduction and recycling campaigns. I want to actually talk about that supporting the local community because I actually see that as a much larger opportunity that we have. How do we, as hotel owners, operators, support the local community? Are we hiring right out of the local community? We bring in about 60% of our workforce from the villages right around us. Many of them never went beyond SD or SMP. You're doing all the training on the job. Sometimes it's teaching a cook how to read. How can she read a recipe? It's training somebody who's going to be interacting with guests how to speak English. But we take that step to put that investment in and pour into the local needs through that and other means.
Great. Okay, we are going to start to wrap up the session and also the day, if I'm not mistaken. So, Xavi, you want to make the closings?